Hi, my name is Michael Dell. I'm a Ganawage Rono living with special needs. When I was interviewed, I had an idea for a show for people from Ganawage living with disabilities. Today is the start of that show, Walk in My World. Often, people with disabilities lead sheltered lives, and their interactions are limited to caregivers and family members. I hope this show will bring you awareness of these people, their families, their lives, and their dreams for the future. Welcome back to another episode of Walk in My World. We are here at Gananoda School to interview Betty Deer, who used to be a teacher here. We're at the step by step. Now it is the cultural center. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike.
So what inspired you to become a teacher?
Well, actually, it was my grade 9 teacher. Her name was Sister Marie, and she was my teacher for 2 years. And then one day she said, there's somebody in this class who is smart enough to become a teacher. So all the girls started naming everybody except me. Finally, she said, well, it's me, and she called me Betty Deer. Well, that was my name at the time. And I have her to thank for my career in education, because she arranged for me to go to Queen of Angels and graduate from high school. Then she arranged for me to go to St. Joseph Teachers College. And then she arranged for me to get a job right here in Ganawage. I was teaching at Cattery School.
How many years did you teach in the Ganawage education system?
Well, I was in the Ganawage education system about 40 years, 38 to 40 years. I started in 1956, and I retired in 2002. And in between, I had a lot of jobs. I was a nursery teacher, I was a grade school teacher, I taught at this school, I taught at Karianuha, I taught at Cattery, and then I became the principal at Cattery. And then I worked in the Skanagoa room, and then I went back to the classroom for 1 year, and then I became a substitute teacher. So I spent almost all my life in all these buildings in Ganawage.
Who was your first special needs student?
My first special needs student was a little boy that I met in the community. When he was about 1.5 years, I noticed that his development was not progressing as it should. So when he was 3 years old, I knew his mother quite well. I asked her if I could take him into my classroom at 3 years old. I didn't ask the principal. Because we were here in this school, we were kind of like left to our own. So I asked the other teachers if I could bring him in, and they said sure. So he came to me, and he didn't speak. Eventually, we found that he was autistic. So he was here with me for 2 years, and then he went to kindergarten. He was here for 3 years. At first, I thought that he was deaf because he didn't speak and he didn't look at you. But as we went on, I discovered that there were other things.
So once you brought him here, and how did the other kids in the class react to him?
Oh, very good, because he was out the same age as them, and 4 years old kids are wonderful. They have no prejudice against anybody. They just like to come here and play and have a good time, and so they just accepted him. But one of the things I found out about him was that at 3 years old, he knew his alphabet, his whole alphabet.
Wow.
He couldn't speak, to tell me, oh, I would like a drink of water. But he could recite the whole alphabet. And how I found this out was through his grandmother. His grandmother had a cushion, and it was the old spelling of Kaknawaga, K-A-U-G-H, all those letters. And he used to name all the letters. And they realized that, gee, this little boy knows his whole alphabet. So what I did was, like, I always found that I didn't want the children to feel, oh, here's this poor little boy that can't speak. I wanted the children to know that, hey, this is a smart little boy. He knows the whole alphabet. And the other 4-year-olds, they didn't. So he used to teach them the alphabet. I would stand them on the table and say, what's this letter? And he'd say, A. And all the kids would say, A. So I said, he's going to teach you the alphabet, and you're going to teach him how to speak, how to talk. So that's the way it went.
The kindergarten was also here?
Yes, we had a nursery class and 2 kindergarten classes.
So he went from here to kindergarten. Did he do the whole education system, or he did only some parts of it?
No, we were able to, when he was much younger, about two and a half, I encouraged his mother to take him to Constance Lethbridge in Montreal to see what was exactly that he was happening with him. And she would take him there, and then they couldn't help him. So then I took him. And then he stayed in the Ganawag education system the whole way. He graduated from survival school, from high school.
You would say that you had a big part to play in that?
Well, I made a beginning for him. You know what? A teacher who has special needs kids in her classroom has to go by her guts. You have to have good guts. You got to know when to get in there and do something. And one of the things I thought about is that why should the children have to always come into our world? Why don't we go into their world? You know, because we're saying to them, you got to come into my world. You got to be like me. So we're telling them there's something wrong with you, but there isn't. So when we go and we go into their world, and we make a little pinhole in, so they can come into our world.
Okay.
We invite them in. Each autistic child has some kind of a mannerism that they do. And with him, he used to go like this and spin around in the classroom. So one day I just said, hey, let's all do what he's doing. So all the kids loved it. They were 4 years old. They all started to do that. Swirl around, and every time he did that, we all jumped up and started twirling, till one day he stopped and he looked at somebody and he smiled. And that was the first time ever he made a contact with another person.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a wow.
So you made an impact on his world.
Well, you know what? What I did when he went, when he was going into kindergarten, now he was going, grade 1, he was going to leave here. I wanted to make sure that he was going to be put in the best place. So he went for some testing. And there the psychologist said, this little boy doesn't need to be here in this special class. I said, who? She told me that she thought that I had done a wonderful job with him. But I said, it wasn't me, it was the children, the other children who were there. I just arranged the environment for him to succeed. So I think that's important. The other children are the ones who did it.
What's your philosophy for dealing with special needs children?
Well, part of it I've already said is that I feel like, especially like for autistic children, is that we need to go into their world. Why should they always have to come into our world? You know, because we're saying to them, you got to come into my world. You got to be like me. So we're telling them there's something wrong with you, but there isn't. So when we go and we go into their world, and we make a little pinhole in, so they can come into our world.
Okay.
We invite them in.
Okay, thank you.